Let me ask you something gently. Have you ever finished your morning toast or evening sandwich, and a half-hour later noticed a tiny fog roll through your mind? Maybe your legs felt just a bit less certain under you as you stood to wash the dishes.
Ah, yes, Dr. Gray. That's more common after 60 than most people admit. And often we blame it on age alone, thinking, well, this must be how getting older feels.
But what if part of that wobbly moment or that gentle blur behind your eyes was actually tied to something you put on your plate that morning? Something so simple, so comforting, it almost seems innocent.
Bread.
Yes, soft, warm bread. The rolls at dinner, the sandwich at lunch, even that humble slice with jam at breakfast. It feels harmless. But for many over 60, the wrong kind of bread acts like a soft sugar pillow, flooding tiny blood pipes too quickly, quietly asking your heart to beat a touch harder, your brain to swim just a bit slower.
Exactly. Because after 60, the body doesn't handle these quick floods as gracefully. Arteries are less elastic, insulin response is slower, little nerve signals slightly more cautious.
So today, we're going to explore the 4 breads most quietly harming people over 60, and more importantly, the 4 gentle breads that could help protect your heart, steady your sugar, and keep your balance sharp.
Because after all, it's rarely about giving up the foods you love entirely. It's about inviting in small, wiser choices, the ones that let you keep carrying your own cup of tea across the kitchen, steady and sure.
So stay with us. By the end of this gentle conversation, you might look at your next loaf with entirely new eyes, and tomorrow morning your heart and mind might quietly thank you. So, doctor, help us understand why bread, something so ordinary, something many have enjoyed for decades, suddenly becomes trickier after 60.
That's a beautiful question. Because bread itself isn't evil. It's how our bodies respond to it after 60 that changes.
What's happening inside that's different from when we were 40 or even 50?
Well, imagine your bloodstream as a series of tiny garden hoses stretching through your legs, your brain, your heart. In youth, these hoses flex easily, taking up sudden waves of sugar without much fuss. But as we age, these hoses become slightly stiffer, not fragile, just a bit more cautious.
So, when we eat bread, especially soft, fast-digesting kinds, it's like pouring a full pitcher of water over a dry sponge. The sponge gulps, swells quickly, sometimes even spills.
Exactly. Your blood sugar spikes faster. The pancreas rushes out insulin to manage it, and if the sugar then drops too rapidly, cortisol comes out to stabilize things, keeping you safe, but also keeping your heart slightly more alert, your brain slightly less clear.
Which explains why some people feel a tiny tremble, a light sweat, or that odd sense of fog an hour after eating.
Yes, and over years, these tiny rushes add up. Arteries learn to brace more often, small nerves become more sensitive, and your body starts whispering, maybe slow down, be careful. Which is why a simple walk across the kitchen might feel less steady.
So bread isn't just bread. It's a tiny conversation with your heart, your vessels, even your balance.
Exactly. And in a moment, I want to show you the 4 kinds of bread most likely to push that conversation into a small panic. Because knowing what to adjust on your plate is often simpler than people fear.
All right, doctor. I've been waiting for this part. because most people listening probably have a favorite bread, something they reach for almost without thinking.
Yes, and that's so human. Bread is comfort. It's tradition. It's family meals. It's early morning toasts with jam. But after 60, some types quietly ask your body to work a bit too hard.
So what's the first bread on your list to watch out for?
White sandwich bread. It's soft, fluffy, dissolves almost the moment it hits saliva. That speed means the sugar inside rushes straight into the bloodstream.
Like pouring warm syrup through tiny arteries.
Exactly. Your pancreas must pump insulin fast. Your heart might pick up just slightly, and your brain gets a mild fog as it tries to adjust.
What's number 2?
Sweet milk breads or brioche. These taste wonderful, slightly sweet, tender, almost like cake disguised as bread.
So like candy, wearing a bread coat.
Beautiful analogy. These breads often have added sugar and milk solids, which means even more quick carbs. They feel harmless, but inside they cause tiny sugar floods.
All right, number 3.
Enriched soft rolls and dinner buns. These are common at family tables. They almost melt when pressed. That softness is lovely in the mouth, but terrible for slow digestion. Your body hardly has time to prepare, so sugar soaks in like water on a dry garden path.
And number 4?
Packaged wraps and tortillas made with refined flour. Many people think wraps are healthier than bread because they're thin. But it's not thickness that matters, it's density and fiber. These wraps often lack structure, so carbs hit the bloodstream nearly as fast as drinking sweet tea.
So 4 breads to be cautious of. White sandwich slices, sweet milk breads, soft dinner buns, and refined flour wraps.
Yes, and notice we're not saying never ever enjoy them. But if these form the base of your daily meals, breakfast toast, lunch wraps, dinner rolls, that's dozens of sugar rushes each week.
Which means dozens of small chances for arteries to brace, insulin to surge, and your heart to stay a little too alert when it should be resting.
Exactly. It's rarely the occasional treat that causes trouble. It's the gentle drip, day after day.
So next, stay with us, because we're not here to take bread away from anyone. In fact, we're about to explore 4 types of bread that still feel comforting, still fill the kitchen with warm smells, but that the body welcomes more gently after 60. All right, doctor. So now comes the part everyone's hoping for. The breads they can still enjoy, maybe even daily, without sending tiny panic signals through their body.
Yes, because after 60, it's not about cutting bread out of life. It's about inviting in breads that act like tiny, steady bricks, slowly stacking in the bloodstream, not rushing all at once.
So what's the first on your gentle bread list?
Sprouted grain bread. This is bread made from grains that have started to sprout before being ground. That tiny sprout changes how the starch behaves. It breaks down slightly, adding enzymes that slow sugar's entrance into the blood.
And often it's denser, isn't it?
Exactly. You'll feel it's slightly heavier in the hand, more textured, which means when you chew, it takes time, giving the body slow notice that energy is arriving.
What's bread number 2?
Rye sourdough. This combines 2 wonderful things: rye, which naturally has more fiber and minerals, and sourdough fermentation, which slightly pre-digests the bread, lowering its impact on insulin.
So the sourdough tang isn't just a taste, It's a tiny bonus for the pancreas.
Yes, and real rye sourdoughs are often chewy, need a good bite, which again slows everything down beautifully.
Number 3.
Barley blend bread. Some artisanal bakers mix barley flour with wheat or rye. Barley contains beta-glucan, a special fiber that acts like a tiny sponge, soaking up sugar and cholesterol in the gut.
So it's almost like having little filters right in the meal.
Exactly. Plus barley adds a subtle nutty flavor many come to love.
And your 4th bread?
Very coarse, whole grain breads, sometimes called German-style or ancient grain loaves. These are so dense they almost feel heavy for their size. Inside, you'll see visible seeds, bits of bran.
So like bread with character. It doesn't vanish the moment it touches the tongue.
Yes, your saliva must work, your stomach works in stages. The sugar trickles in. It's like a slow-release energy capsule that your arteries and brain deeply appreciate.
Any small tips for people buying these?
Store them in the fridge. It keeps them firm. You want bread that fights a little when you press it, not something that collapses like a soft pillow. And if it feels dense in your hand, that's a tiny promise it will be gentle on your bloodstream.
So to recap, sprouted grain, rye sourdough, barley blends, and dense ancient grain breads. Not cutting bread out, just choosing loaves that slow the ride.
Exactly. And in a moment I want to show you a tiny eating ritual, one that changes even how these good breads enter your body. Because it's not only what you eat, but how you welcome it.
So doctor, now that we've found breads that whisper gentle promises to the body, how should someone actually eat them to invite even more calm?
Ah, this is my favorite part. Because so often people focus only on what they eat, forgetting the how changes everything.
So it's not just the bread, but the entire small ritual around it.
Exactly. Here's what I tell many of my patients over 60. When you take a bite, pause for just a heartbeat. Let the bread rest on your tongue. Let the saliva begin to soften it. Imagine your pancreas smiling. It's getting a gentle head start.
Almost like telling your body, no rush. We'll meet this energy together slowly.
Yes. Then chew slowly, counting softly to 4 or 5. As you swallow, take a small breath in through the nose, letting the belly rise. Then exhale gently through slightly pursed lips.
It's incredible how something so tiny, a slow bite, a soft breath, could change the heart's evening.
It does, because eating quickly sends sugar rushing, forces insulin out in big waves, keeps the heart slightly alert, but eating like this, pausing, breathing, invites a calmer conversation.
So bread under this tiny ritual becomes less of a quick sugar bomb and more like slow bricks gently placed where the body needs.
Perfectly put. And if someone lights a small candle or gives a tiny word of thanks before starting, even just whispering, "Thank you for this steadiness," it sends signals far beyond digestion. It slows cortisol, calms little nerves that line the arteries, steadies the tiny watchers of the immune system.
It's a beautiful way to look at food. Not something to fear, not even bread. Just something to welcome with care.
Yes, and in a moment I want to share a quick story of a patient in his 70s who started this and found his mornings quietly transformed.
So, doctor, you mentioned a patient who found his mornings quietly transformed. Tell us about him.
Ah, yes, Mr. Watanabe. He's 74, still enjoys tending his small garden outside Tokyo. But he came to me worried, saying some mornings his legs felt heavy, almost hesitant, like they weren't sure they wanted to carry him across the kitchen.
That must have been frightening.
It was gentle but unnerving for him. And when we looked closer, his breakfast were almost always 2 slices of soft white toast with sweet jam. Quick energy, yes, but also quick sugar.
So what did you suggest?
We swapped in a small slice of rye sourdough with a thin layer of nut butter. I also taught him that tiny eating ritual. Pause on the tongue, chew slowly, breathe between bites.
And what happened?
Within about 3 weeks, he came back smiling. Said he noticed he was walking to fill the kettle in the morning without reaching for the counter. And by 2 months, he joked his pants almost seemed to hang differently, not because he lost weight, but because he was standing taller.
That's remarkable. Small, humble shifts that quietly build freedom.
Yes. And a little study out of Helsinki tracked seniors over 65 who switched from white bread to coarse barley blends. After 6 weeks, not only did their fasting sugars improve, but small tests of balance, like standing on one leg with eyes closed, also showed subtle steadiness.
So it's never just about bread or sugar alone. It's about tiny habits that ripple into every step we take, every breath, every calm moment the heart feels safe.
Exactly. And in a moment, I'd love to wrap this up with a gentle question for our listeners, so they can begin their own small journey tonight.
Doctor, I love how this entire conversation is really about freedom. Not rules, not restrictions, but gentle shifts that keep someone walking unassisted, steady and clear-headed.
Exactly. Because after 60, health is less about chasing youth and more about protecting the quiet joys, like carrying your own cup of tea across the garden without hesitation.
And I hope everyone listening feels that. It's not about fearing bread or scolding ourselves for old habits. It's about whispering tiny invitations to the body. Stay steady with me a little longer.
So tonight, maybe you choose a denser bread. Maybe you let it rest on your tongue a moment longer. Breathe between bites. Or simply pause to give thanks that your legs still carry you to the table.
And we'd love to hear from you. What small bread shift will you try this week? Or do you already have a quiet ritual with your morning toast that keeps your heart calm? Share your story below, because your gentle habit might be exactly what someone else needs to begin.
And next time, we'll explore something many overlook, the tiny fats that can either harden arteries or soften them, whispering ease to both heart and brain.
So stay with us. Take gentle care tonight and make tomorrow's steps feel just a bit more certain.